Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to Bhagavad-Gita Basics. We've all heard that we are not the body, we are the soul. We are not what we see in the mirror. This external image is not the full reality, but instead we are the eternal spark, the spirit soul that resides within, that we cannot see. And that soul is eternal, it's full of knowledge, it's eternally blissful, it's immutable, it's permanent, unchanging, indestructible. And yet, do we live by that understanding? This is very important, because although we've heard this, if we're on a spiritual journey, if we're searching, there's a good chance we've been told this. You are not the body, you are the soul. I know I've heard it my whole life. And yet, do I live by it on a day-to-day basis? Are my actions, my thoughts, reflective of that understanding? Because if everything I did on a day-to-day basis were truly with that depth of spiritual realization, then there's a good chance I would not be feeling so much anxiety and pain and suffering. This is what Krishna explains to Arjuna right at the beginning of the Bhagavad-Gita. The first spiritual concept that he reminds Arjuna about is that, hey, friend, you are not this body. And all these people here, they are not the external covering. They are all spirit souls. They're eternal. Why does he remind him of this? It's not like Arjuna doesn't know this. Arjuna is a great, learned, educated warrior. He is extremely spiritually advanced. So why does Krishna have to remind him of this? It's because Krishna sees Arjuna in this really emotional and helpless state. Arjuna has given up. I'm not going to fight. There's no point in this. I don't see how this could be of any use. And he's really feeling a lot of pain at the prospect of killing his family members, really. And then Krishna smiles. He smiles really big and from within, because he might be thinking this is a bit comical. That although Arjuna knows better, he doesn't realize what he's saying, because he's identifying with, oh, these are my family members. These are, if I kill them, I won't be able to enjoy without them. Oh, what will happen to everyone after this battle is over? So all these considerations are relating to the body, which is not going to last. Now we may say, well, we have to live in the body. How can we not relate to it? Of course, we must behave according to our duty. We must act according to the body's needs, look after the body and all that. But the understanding, if we truly understood what the soul represents, then we would understand Krishna's next point. And he says that all this change that we're experiencing and that we get afraid of, there's real fear of change. If we look around in our own experience of reality, change causes us a lot of pain. It causes us a lot of fear, and we get worried because of that. We don't want to be in an uncertain situation. We don't want to be caught off guard. We want to be in control of what's going to happen. But he's saying this change that the body experiences is absolutely expected, because we live in the material realm, which is truly, by definition, ever-changing. It is therefore called asat, because it does not endure. Everything in our reality will continue to just mutate, change its shape. So how can we really put our faith and our trust and our identity into something that's constantly mutating? It goes on to explain. Krishna says, Dehinosmin yatha dehi kaumaram yovanam jara tatha dehantarah prapti dhirastatra na muhyati. Those who are wise, those who truly identify with their soul, those of us who can remember not to identify with the body would understand that, oh, these changes just come and go. The next verse he says, just like the seasons, they come and go. So why get bewildered? Why attach ourselves to those changing, shifting realities? It doesn't make sense, does it? If we know something is going to change, why would we put our identity into it? Just like you're eating an apple, or it's just sitting there, and then we get upset that it rots after 4 days. We wouldn't do that, would we? If a fruit rots after a few days of not eating it, we would understand, oh, fruits are temporary. Food around us is temporary. We wouldn't get upset at the apple for rotting. Right? Just, I don't know, that makes sense to me. Because we know for a fact, we've already understood in a very deep sense that that fruit is not meant to last forever. And therefore we don't get upset when it changes and gets destroyed. Similarly, if we truly understood that everything to do with this body is going to change, and eventually it's definitely going to die out, we wouldn't invest all of our reality into this mutating body. Some reality for sure, day to day. I gotta brush my teeth, I gotta shower, I gotta look after my kids, I gotta go to work. That's reasonable. But beyond that, if someone insults me according to my body, if someone tries to say hurtful things because of my body, I wouldn't get so affected by it, because actually this body is it could be something else tomorrow. It could not exist in a few years and I'd have a new body. And it sounds too much. It sounds like it's overwhelmingly out of our reach. But with daily reminders, daily meditation, that truly, Kishori, I am not this body. We can rise above that and make our reality something else. We can transform our reality to be such that it's anchored in something that's everlasting. And then we tap into that source of eternal joy and wisdom and knowledge. So let's hear what Krishna has to say. After he says, Dehi nosmin yatha dehe, he's saying that the change is to be expected. We can see with our own eyes that we're going from baby to childhood and teenage years and adulthood. We're seeing it within our own self. I've just got glasses. My eyesight has changed. My kids are growing up. Every 6 months I have to buy new clothes. Our bodies are forever going to be changing. And yet every connection in reality that we have is through the body. We've anchored ourselves so deeply into the body that every change throws us off. Every time something goes against our expectations for the body, we get overwhelmed. Well, this didn't go through. This was what, this is what I want. This is what I need. But all of these desires, all of these thoughts are actually anchored in something that's not going to last and therefore called unreal. Asat means that which cannot last and therefore it is not real. Of course, in a shorter temporary space, it is real. But we cannot anchor ourselves to that unreal reality, because then we will constantly be thrown side to side by the happiness and distress. He says, Matra sparshastu kaunteya, shitoshna sukha dukkadaha, agama paino nitya stam stitakshasva bharataha. He's saying, oh descendant of Bharat, this coming and going of happiness and distress is just like the changing seasons. And it's only because of what you perceive through your senses to be reality, but that's not reality. He's saying that's not the full reality, let's put it that way. It's a temporary reality. So don't put everything into it. Try to rise above it. Try to look beyond. And then he says, just tolerate the pain and happiness. Really interesting, because we get so attached to the happiness thinking, well, that's going to last. And it must last. Well, this wealth should last. This beauty should last. This relationship should absolutely last. And if it doesn't last, then it's their fault or this person's fault. We've invested our entire reality into the happiness. And we try our absolute best to avoid all the pain and suffering which is bound to come, just like the winter and summer seasons. That is absurd. If we know that summer is going to come and then winter is going to come, but we pretend it's not going to come, that's not logical. So the pain and suffering is two sides of the same coin. Krishna is saying just tolerate both. Don't get so attached to this happiness, the temporary happiness. We all want happiness, and that's our birthright. That's our, Krishna's God-given right is to be happy. But the happiness cannot come from those sources that are temporary, the senses. They are cheating us by giving us little glimpses of so-called happiness, and therefore he's saying that you cannot be attached to. You've got to be able to rise above it, and to do that you just have to tolerate. You just have to kind of look at it from slightly external viewpoint, like rise above it and be like, okay, this is happening to me, but that's not who I am. My eternal source of joy is within. It's the super soul. Sri Krishna is sitting in my heart. And the more I connect to him, the more I connect to my real self, I will feel an eternal source of joy. In the next verse he says, really beautiful, he says, one who can tolerate such temporary coming and going of happiness and distress, that person becomes eligible for liberation. We all want to be in a state of liberation. We can have that in this life if we can learn to tolerate the coming and going of these bodily experiences. It doesn't mean we're not in the body, doesn't mean we're saying ignore our needs or desires. That's not what we're saying. Sri Krishna is actually telling him, no, do your duty. Don't just sit and lament and just, run from your problems. That's not what he's saying. He's saying very much that your duty within this body. I'm a woman, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I have certain dharma. I have my duties and I must perform them without attachment to the results, without attachment that I should be enjoying this. If we get attached to that, it might backfire. But if we actually let go and just do what we're meant to do, that joy will start coming from within, because that is the point of dharma. When you do what you were meant to do, what our calling and our duty within each role is, when we do that, then Krishna automatically provides the joy. So sukham kartum avyayam. When we do our dharma and we connect with the Supreme Person, so Sanatana Dharma, that joy just starts manifesting from within, and then it's a positive, sustainable cycle. We do more, we experience more joy and satisfaction. But actually, if we go into every role, into every interaction thinking, well, I should enjoy this, then that's the opposite. It's very tricky. We'll get into more of that in the coming chapters, where Krishna is explaining we've got to just do our karma, our dharma, without any expectations. Not going in thinking, well, will this make me happy? Then I'll do it. That's not how it works. We do what we're meant to do, and then we feel joy. So, I'm getting carried away here, but these next few verses are so powerful. If you are ever feeling a bit lost and confused, this is a great chapter to start from. Krishna is telling Arjuna that, I understand what you're going through, but I think you're forgetting a very basic principle, that you're identifying with the body. And there's a good chance that if we're feeling really overwhelmed, then we're probably stuck in this micro reality and not able to come out and look at the big picture. That's what japa does. That's what tapa helps us do, is to look at the big picture. When we meditate on Sri Krishna and our relationship with the Supreme, it really helps us come out of our tiny little box of reality that's pertaining just to our bodily connections. It really helps us to come out and look at the big picture. And that's what this first part of the first spiritual concept that Krishna is reminding Arjuna about. Very basic. We've all heard it before. We've all heard we are not the body, but we can have a test, a self-assessment for ourselves. Are we, to the degree that we are feeling pain and anxiety about, unreasonable things? Of course, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be feeling any pain and anxiety. It's a very normal part of life. But if you're seeing that it's really unreasonable and it's getting out of hand, then maybe it's time for some deep reflection on, are we practicing what we know to be true? Or is it just theoretically, yes, I am a soul, I am spiritual spark. Then we're not actually living what we know. We know better. I hope that was useful. Praying that you're all happy and well.